Welcome to Pastor's Chat today. Well, we're looking at Psalm 44 on this Good Friday, and we're going to also be reading from Isaiah chapter 53 later in this chat as we contemplate and think about our Lord Jesus Christ and his death on the cross of Calvary 2,000 years ago. But let's first finish up Psalm 44. Remember, the writer of this psalm is maybe someone in the days of Hezekiah, a prophet of God, or someone whose heart was right with God, and the nation was under tremendous distress, maybe from an invasion from the Assyrians from the north, and they are remembering. So the first few verses of the chapter, they're remembering God's great victories in the past. And then they talk about how now they're cast off and they've been put to shame. But when you then come to verse 17, and that's where we're at in this chapter, they are remembering also how there is a remnant. There must be a small remnant, maybe even the prophet or the psalmist who's writing this chapter, who's talking about his heart, their hearts, or that group of people whose hearts are still right with God, who love the Lord, who have not forsaken him, and they're calling out for mercy. Listen to these verses beginning in verse 17. All this has come upon us. And of course, he's speaking about the previous verses when God has put them to shame and the enemy is mocking them. The enemy has overrun them. And all this has come upon us. But we have not forgotten you, nor have we dealt falsely with your covenant. Our heart is not turned back, nor have our steps departed from your way. But you've severely broken us in the place of jackals and covered us in the shadow of death. If we have forgotten the name of our God or stretched out our hands to a foreign God, would not God search this out? For he knows the secrets of the heart. And then a verse that's quoted in Romans chapter 8, verse 36, yet for your sake we are killed all the day long. We are counted as sheep for the slaughter. And then he closes the chapter with these words, awake! Why do you sleep, O Lord? Arise! Do not cast us off forever. Why do you hide your face and forget our affliction and our oppression? For our soul is bowed down to the dust. Our body clings to the ground. Arise for our help and redeem us for your mercy's sake. And so the psalmist ends the chapter with a great plea for God to bring deliverance and help in the midst of their trial and their trouble. What a great chapter. We remember who God is, what he's done for us in the past. Yes, we've been overcome by the enemy in so many ways, and many times it's because of our own sins. And sometimes we have to claim, God, you know the secrets of the heart. And the Bible tells us the secrets of our heart aren't always all that good. Even though we might think that we haven't failed, God knows our hearts, and God knows why we're going through what we go through. Yes, we might be like a Job who was perfect in all his ways and maybe have eschewed evil, hated evil, and done that which is right. And yet God allows temptations and trials and problems and suffering to come that we might truly learn to depend on him and call on his name. Well, let me read a few verses from Isaiah 53 as we think about our Lord Jesus Christ's death on this Good Friday 2,000 years ago. And so the prophet says, who has believed our report? And to whom is the arm of the Lord revealed? For he shall grow up before him as a tender plant and as a root out of dry ground. He has no form nor comeliness, and when we see him, there is no beauty that we would desire him. He is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And we hid, as it were, our faces from him. He was despised, and we did not esteem him. Surely, speaking of Jesus, he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows. Yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten by God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and by his stripes we are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray. We've turned everyone to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was afflicted and he was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. He was led as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before his shears is silent. So he opened not his mouth. He was taken from prison and from judgment. And who will declare his generation? For he was cut off from the land of the living, and for the transgression of my people was he stricken. My friend, that's our Lord Jesus Christ, who gave his life for you and me. He loves us beyond our imagination. Let's believe and worship and trust him today. God bless, and you have a wonderful, wonderful day.